About time.
I know. I've been waiting. I feel like just shaking a little bit in anticipation, pretty much from like January onward. Yeah, so it's been a lot of energy expended in anticipation of this month. And so I just want to get that out of the way before we proceeded. So now we can do our normal intro. So welcome to Dishing the Dirt, a podcast where we dish the dirt about how to practice sustainability through the seasons. And my name is Jackie Lebouitz. I'm the Chemicals and the Environment Agent at IFAS Extension, Sarasota County. And I'm joined by my comrade in orange.
That's right. I'm the spirit of October. I wore my bright orange Florida Gator shirt. I'm Randy Penn. I'm the faculty waste reduction agent with the University of Florida IFAS Extension here in Sarasota County. And so why are you so excited? I don't understand. Is it because of our guest here?
That is a big factor, absolutely. I'm very excited about our guest here, Carly Dufficy from Mosquito Management Services. So you do a lot of outreach and education when it comes to mosquitoes, which is very important because it's a bit of a controversial subject. But the reason that I'm so excited, Randy, is because it's Halloween month. All right. I think we have a lot of Halloween enthusiasts at the table here. It's just really good holiday. You get to dress up. There's candy in the mix. There's shenanigans, spooks, horror movies. Oh, love a good horror movie marathon. But speaking of horrors, of reality and beyond, we are going to be talking about the deadliest animal on Earth today with Carly here. And then we'll get into some other general bug stuff as well. But right now, let's go ahead and launch into it with our first topic of the podcast. Deadliest animal on Earth. What's that, Carly?
Well, surprise, surprise, it's the mosquito. So, unfortunately, mosquitoes actually cause upwards of 700,000 deaths every year, primarily in children under 5. So, they're quite scary. More than humans, wolves, bears, sharks, those conventionally scary animals, mosquitoes topple them numbers-wise.
Yeah, so I've heard a couple of different statistics when it comes to annual deaths caused by mosquitoes, and we're talking about those diseases that they vector specifically. Now, what number would you say is kind of the most up-to-date accurate for, globally, how many deaths are caused by mosquitoes?
It's still going to be around that 700,000 range, but it does vary based on the disease being vectored. Malaria is actually making up the majority of that as a singular disease. Malaria is probably around 400 to 500,000 deaths annually. And the rest of those, of course, are various diseases because mosquitoes can transmit quite a few different ones.
Yeah, which ones do we have to be, I don't want to say worried about, but cognizant of in Florida?
In Florida, West Nile virus, that's going to be pretty much common anywhere in the United States. Being Florida, of course, we have a significant mosquito population, and there are multiple ones that we have that can transmit that. But we do also watch out for Eastern equine encephalitis. That one, although very uncommon, is very deadly in many cases. So it's on our radar, not commonly seen, but scary when we do see it. And then things like, unfortunately, malaria. We did have a few years ago right here in our own backyard. So we're looking out for that with a lot of caution. But again, it's not one that we're seeing regularly anymore. So they all kind of play their own different part. Any mosquito-borne virus is not a good one.
Right. I think that's a common sentiment we can all agree with. And where can we go to check for instances of local outbreaks of these diseases? Do you guys communicate that on social media? Are there maybe more statewide resources available?
As of right now, the best resource to see what mosquito-borne pathogens or viruses are being transmitted is actually through the Florida Department of Health's website. They actually submit a weekly arbovirus report. Arbovirus being a fancy term for insect-transmitted disease. So that definitely includes mosquitoes, which comprises the majority of this report. And they break it down by the disease, the county, also how it was tested for, There are a few different means. And then also, really important to note is local transmission versus travel associated, because just because somebody comes back with a disease does not necessarily mean that we have the mosquitoes capable of transmitting it. So it has that important distinction. It's a great report. And then if we do happen to have a advisory or an alert for mosquito-borne illness here in Sarasota County, we do utilize the emergency management system, where we do have the capacity to share that information with residents based on the threat level.
Gotcha. And how do people sign up for that, or do they just automatically get in the loop?
So you do have to sign up. It's alertsarasotacounty.com, or you can call the contact center 311 if you are local. If you're outside of county boundaries, 861-5000, and the local contact center team can sign you up as well. But I do recommend personally making an account so that you can make changes in the future if needed.
All right. Very good. I know I'm signed up. Are you signed up, Brad?
No, I'm not signed up. Probably should get signed up, especially because I was out this weekend and got destroyed by mosquitoes.
Yeah.
But that actually brings up a question to me. Are there different types of mosquitoes that are more prone to carry disease versus other ones?
Oh,
So I
yes.
was kind of working in the mangroves in the creek area, and they're real small, and they're almost, you can't even get them. They just move really quick, and they just keep getting you.
Yeah. Chances are, just like Jackie just said, could have been those salt marsh mosquitoes, which thankfully are not big disease vectors or carriers. There are worldwide, globally, close to 3,500 to 4,000 species. And of those, only about 100 or so can actually transmit disease to humans. So it does matter the type of mosquito. They all have their own habitat and their little niche that they fill. So depending on your area, like you said, you were over in those kind of swampy creek areas, we would expect to probably see some salt marsh ones or some culics, which again, not all of them are great carriers of a disease. So not every bite can lead to infection, but you don't know which ones you're going to encounter. So safety is the best.
Safety is important, and we're going to get into safety in a little bit, but I really do want to touch on one of the mosquito fundamentals, and that is, how does the disease or the disease causing organism get passed along through feeding? And then what kind of mosquito is actually responsible for that? What's the why do they even drink our blood?
Yeah.
What's up with that?
Yeah, so unfortunately for us, mosquitoes do need blood in order to reproduce, essentially. So, little nitty gritty. So, the male mosquitoes actually do not bite, it is only the females. So, they give us kind of a bad reputation. But what happens is after they have mated, the female needs protein in order to develop eggs. And so she will go and she'll find a blood source. And this could be, depending on the species, they have different preferences. It could be us, it could be dogs, cats, horses, reptiles, even. And unfortunately for us, if they do come to us, sometimes we can get diseases when they bite us for that. And you asked about the mechanism of how the disease gets passed along. So they have a long biting mouth part called a proboscis. And inside of that one long, it looks like a tube or a straw. There's actually much smaller tubes inside that all have a different function. And one of those actually takes in blood, but also ejects saliva. So, when that happens, if a mosquito has previously been to a blood source that was carrying a disease that we're capable of contracting, it can pass through that saliva into our bloodstream, making us sick. And conversely, if we are already carrying a pathogen that they can pick up, that's how they also get it, is from our blood. It does take a little while where it's not just instantaneously. Let's say, Jackie, you had West Nile and she goes over and she bites you, and it's not going to happen instantaneously. It takes, a couple days, maybe a few weeks, depending on
Yeah, to incubate.
exactly incubation. And so it goes from their midgut to their salivary glands. So a lot of factors at play. Did the female bite something that had a virus or parasite? Did it live long enough to incubate it? Was it the right kind of mosquito to pass that along? And then is the next person or animal that she bites again capable of contracting it? So all of those things have to make kind of a perfect storm for that transmission to happen, but it does.
Yeah. And so, as Carly mentioned earlier, you can head to the FDOH website just for those weekly arbovirus reports. I think every once in a while, just go to see what's being reported in the different counties. And they have a little map associated with it too. So you can
Yep.
check general trends throughout the year and, just keep informed. But as far as staying safe, you mentioned, Randy, that you got bit up. Now, thankfully, if they were salt marsh mosquitoes, really not much of a disease risk there. But what are some things you might have told Randy if you had the chance to warn him ahead of time about those mosquito bites?
Well, the 5 Ds, making sure that you practice those. So that's going to be dressing to protect. And we do that by wearing longer garments, so long sleeves and long shirts that are also typically loose fitting and surprisingly light colored. So the reason for this is that tight clothes are easier for the mosquito to bite through. And also, if you're wearing light colors, it's a little bit harder for them to see you. They don't see in 4K high definition. They see blobs of light, color, heat. So if you're wearing light colors, it's a little bit more difficult for them. So dressing is 1D. We're also going to do dusk and dawn. Those are times to avoid. Those make up 2 of the other Ds. And were you out during maybe sunset hours?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Dust to dawn, working out in the yard.
Yeah, and of course, we do have some daytime biters, but the ones that we see during the day are also not typically high disease vectors. But as we get into the nighttime hours, your chances of experiencing those species does increase. So avoiding those peak times, we also recommend, I don't think you were in an area where this would have been applicable, but dumping out water. So avoiding water sources where they come from, whether it's around your own home, which is when we would advise dumping out that standing water. But of course, if you are outside in an open area, maybe were you fishing or doing some outdoor activities?
I've done that before. I've gone fishing and just got crushed. So
Yeah. So you can't really necessarily dump out the water there. So our last and probably most highly recommended item is Defend, and that's going to be using various repellents. I have a couple behind us here, but we do recommend EPA approved products, so things that contain DEET, picaridin, or IR 3535. So, yep.
Yeah, no, and there's a lot of different options, honestly, in terms of those EPA registered repellents. So we'll have some resources in the show notes where you can check to see what the different options are. And then UF actually did a very interesting trial where they looked at the staying power of these different active ingredients and common brands, so you can see how long they'll actually be effective against mosquitoes. And not only are these repellents formulated for use with mosquitoes, but they can protect you against ticks and midges and some other things you might not want to deal with either.
Yeah, definitely. No matter where you are, using some form of repellent is going to reduce your risk of being bitten by many things overall.
So let me ask you this. Is there any truth, or is this an urban myth, that sometimes some people attract more than others?
So, there's not a whole lot of science right now to support some theories tied to this statement. Some people think blood type plays into it. There's not a lot of supporting evidence for that. However, with different things that our bodies do produce, like our pheromones and our lactic acid, which is made in our body and goes to our muscles, they are attracted to those things, which can vary person to person.
It's interesting. So there might be some truth to it, but it
Yeah.
sounds like it's more about maybe how you're dressing and those type of things that play a little bit more into it.
Yeah, a lot of the external factors that we can control, but science is still looking into maybe other reasons that maybe are outside of our control as well.
Yeah. So beyond that, yeah, disease risk, it's also probably worth mentioning too the itch, right? And that's caused by this very same saliva where that uh, disease organism is going to be present. So, that's probably one of the biggest reasons people don't really want to have too many encounters with mosquitoes. Of course, disease is the most important, but nobody likes to be itching constantly either.
Yeah, the itch is caused by, like you said, in that saliva. The saliva plays a very important role in the bite function. So it acts as an anticoagulant, making the blood flow better. And it contains a protein, which is what causes that itch. And it's technically an allergic reaction.
Hmm.
So most people very mildly are allergic to mosquitoes, and some people actually can have severe anaphylactic reactions even. So it's always important to stay protected.
Yeah, I think for those folks, I just wish you the best of luck living here in Florida. That's a tough hand you were dealt. And I wanted to follow up on another thing as well, Carly, and that is you mentioned dumping out standing water. So, what role does standing water have when it comes to mosquitoes? And yeah, I don't know, just why dump it out?
Well, everybody or every animal needs to come from someplace. So birds build nests and other animals burrow in the ground. Mosquitoes use water. So they will actually lay their eggs on, in most cases, on the water's surface. There's a few species that differ ever so slightly, but they all need water to start and complete their life cycle. So they go through a complete life cycle with 4 stages: egg, larva, pupa, and adult. And the first 3 are going to be aquatic. It's only once they become adults do they hatch out of the exoskeleton of the pupa and fly away from the water to go forth into the world. So if you get rid of that water, you essentially don't provide them a place to nest or breed,
Yeah,
and reducing mosquitoes around your home.
makes sense. And I can think of some common containers in my yard that would probably collect water. Sometimes I got a bucket out there. I see tires around, uh, tarps even with the little creases, kids' toys. If you have a boat and you're not covering it with a tarp.
Yeah, we have on our mosquito management website, we have a page where you can actually see a comprehensive chart of examples and how you could mitigate mosquitoes in those specific containers. And for containers in particular, like tarps, toys, bird baths, planter pots, anything that is a natural or artificial container that's not like a pond or a lake, something smaller, we have what we call container mosquitoes, and those actually do have a tendency to have an increased chance of disease.
Gotcha. No, that's a really good thing to know, and so we'll definitely have the Mosquito Management Services website in our show notes for folks to look at because you guys have put together a lot of awesome resources to help mitigate those mosquitoes. Now, I did want to ask, there may be the rare occasion where you can't dump or drain something out. Let's say if somebody had bromeliads, right, in a landscape, they have that central cup that can hold on to rainwater. What do you do then? Are there any other options besides dumping it out?
Yeah, sure. So with bromeliads or with containers that you can't dump out easily, we do highly recommend a natural bacteria. And so the short name is BTI, and I have an example here with me.
And that stands for Bacillus thuringiensis israelensis, correct?
Yes, but I say BTI because it's my little rolls out the tongue is a little bit. But so what this is BTI is a bacteria that has been found in soil, and when it is applied to water, larvae need to eat, right? So in this stage, they are tiny, and so they're going to eat tiny things like bacterium, algae, very small microbic size things. And so when they ingest this specific bacteria, it essentially causes a reaction that makes them basically believe they never need to eat again. And so they starve off and don't complete their life cycle into adulthood. So it's really highly recommended. It is completely safe for our waterways, our ponds, fish, frogs. The only things that this is known to target is pestiferous insects, including mosquitoes, black flies, and fungus gnats. So it is really great to use. We use it in our own day-to-day applications. So if y'all see our trucks going up and down spraying from the front of the truck, that's what this is mixed with water, is it's just this non-chemical bacteria that helps reduce larvae in those front waterway channels that are in many of our Sarasota County neighborhoods. So great to use that.
May I
Yes.
I'm gonna open up the bag here?
So is that dissolved in that what they're spraying out? And is that safe for pets and things like that? I might be walking my dogs along and they get into all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, so it is safe for dogs, people, children, children or people, but it is safe to use around pretty much anything. Now it does have a slight odor once it's been applied to water, so we do advise, maybe don't run in front of it if it's being sprayed. But yeah, it's completely safe to be around. You can apply it with no protective equipment, and we just advise following the label instructions. We don't recommend, ingesting it in high quantities, of course. But yeah, it is safe to be around. If your dog drinks the water that it's been applied to, there's going to be no harm to the dog.
Yeah, I think that's great to know because there's probably a lot of misconceptions about mosquitoes. People have the horror stories of like the stuff everybody sprayed in the 50s.
Yeah.
And so to know it's safe and it's not going to harm you or anything is really good.
Yeah. Yeah, science has definitely evolved since then, and so this is what we use during our daytime applications. Now, yes, during the night, chemical does still get used when it is necessary. We specifically don't operate on a schedule, so we only operate with chemical when it is deemed necessary based on what types of mosquitoes, because again, only some carry disease and many do not. How many, if disease has been detected. So we take science into the equation to determine if chemical is going to be used. But 90-ish% of our treatments is bacteria, mosquito fish, mineral oil, very environmentally friendly alternatives to reduce that chemical usage.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I wanted to ask because we have some right there on our prop shelf. And I know for those of you who are maybe just listening to the audio, you can't see them, but trust me, they are small and they are cute. And we're going to talk about them. You have some mosquito fish there. So can you tell me a little bit more about the mosquito fish program at
Yeah,
Mosquito Management Services?
absolutely. So we call them our little warriors. And what they do essentially is, as their name implies, they eat mosquito larvae. And they are probably, besides the bacteria, our number one application. And we can currently boast that we have the state's largest mosquito fish facility for a mosquito control district. And on average, we are releasing over 60,000 fish every year to help, again, mitigate mosquitoes before they become a biting problem for us. And we can do this in areas like canals or ponds. We do a lot of the mangrove areas because by applying the fish, we don't need to continuously apply either bacteria, which lasts maybe a couple weeks before it needs to be reapplied again, or chemical, which again is our last resort. So the fish are really effective. Each one, which maximum grows up to maybe about 2 inches, females get a little bit bigger than the males. They can each theoretically eat up to 100 larvae or pupa every day. It's a lot. Yeah. And they're very hardy. They're pretty tolerant of most water conditions, so they're great to apply throughout the county. And even if you have an ornamental pond or maybe let's say your pool broke down, we had a lot of those calls following last few hurricane seasons of people's pool pumps breaking and their pools were just becoming overgrown, becoming breeding grounds for mosquitoes. We would apply the fish as a long-term solution until that pool could get fixed.
I love it. I mean, and they're free, right?
Oh, yes.
Just free fish. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a good deal. Of course, you have to be eligible and a Sarasota County resident to get them, but there's a service form on the website I know you can fill out and request those mosquito fish. So if that's something of interest to you listeners out there, know you can do it on that website. That'll be in the show notes. And so as we kind of get into the final aspects of our talk here, I mean, I could ask you questions, I think, forever about mosquitoes because they are terribly and spookily fascinating. Bring back the Halloween here. So some Halloween costume ideas, right? I think somebody could theoretically be a mosquito fish. That could be a great partner costume as well, where we have a mosquito, specifically a larva maybe would be a good option. So go as a mosquito larva, and your partner could be a mosquito fish, and just spend the whole night chasing each other down. Is that too niche? I don't know.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe. I don't know if I could sell that one in my household, but
With the right audience, if I saw you in that costume, 100%, I would recognize it.
You'd ask for a photo, maybe.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And I actually, a couple years ago, was a mosquito for Halloween. So
Very good.
just if anybody wants to complete the life cycle stage, do a group thing.
A family costume idea. You have all 4 stages.
Very, very cute.
So if you do happen to do that, right, there's still a little time to plan for Halloween, get these things together. We will certainly accept and celebrate pictures of your efforts. So you can send them our way, social media, just send us a little photo over Facebook Messenger, Instagram, and we'll take it from there, or just with your permission to share. All right. So any last things you want to share, Carly, about fighting the deadly mosquito menace in our county before we start to wrap things up?
I would just say if you are experiencing mosquitoes, or even perhaps if you're planning as we get closer to Halloween, maybe a block party, or if you're going to have an event in your neighborhood, you can give us a call, do with ample time, but we're happy to come out, make sure that the area is going to be rid of as many mosquitoes as possible prior to the Halloween event. But of course, again, practicing the 5 Ds. And as I mentioned, within those 5 Ds are the 3 Ls: long, loose, and light colored clothing. And that includes our costumes. So making sure that we stay protected is extremely important, and knowing that we are here to help the public as well. So
All right. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Carly. You were an excellent guest. I feel like I learned a lot. Did you learn more?
I think I could talk about mosquitoes forever. It's unbelievable. That's
Maybe there will be part 2 in the future. But for now, we'll go ahead, wrap things up, and I'll share with our listeners, as mentioned before, our resources will be in the show notes. And I'd like to plug the Spooky Bug Brigade, which is a blog series, very Halloween themed. Put it out last year, but I'm recycling it because Halloween is coming up. So if you want to learn about some other spooky arthropods, I recommend giving that a read. That'll be in the show notes as well. Otherwise, have a very happy Halloween. And thank you for listening to Dishing the Dirt. We'll see you in our next one in November.